evening, everybody. My name is Yulia Kosharna, and I'm the Strategic Public Engagement Specialist at the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv, Ukraine. On behalf of the U.S. Embassy and America House, Kyiv, I would like to warmly welcome you at today's event. Today's discussion is part of the Business Impact Series at America House and U.S. Embassy initiative that connects Ukrainian entrepreneurs, startup founders, innovators, and business leaders with American expertise, companies, investors, and innovation ecosystem. Today's event is our very first session, and I couldn't think of a better way to begin than talking about one of the topics that so many Ukrainian founders are interested in: how to successfully enter and grow in the US market. And it's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Ines Nasri. Ines is a Los Angeles-based entrepreneur, Forbes Business Council member, international speaker, and business growth expert with more than 17 years of experience helping companies successfully enter and scale in the US market. Today, Ines will share practical insights on expanding to the US market, understanding American customers, and building a strategy for long-term success in the United States. And before we begin, just a few notes. Please feel free to submit your questions in the comments through the session. We'll leave time for Q&A after the presentation, and we will address your questions to Ines. With that, Ines, thank you so much for joining us today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Julia. Thank you for having me and for putting together this amazing initiative. It is really my honor to present and to be with you today. And like you said, today we're going to talk about a very important topic, which is not just expanding to the US, but expanding successfully. And one of the pillars is actually, having clients, right? This is, you can't have a business without having clients. And so before we dive into the presentation, I would love to know more about the audience. So just like Yulia said, if you could share in the chat where you are joining from and what your company is about, and show your company some love, right? Share the link of your website. What is it that you do? And use this opportunity to give exposure to your startup or your company. I would love to know more about the audience and about who's with us today. And in the meantime, I'll introduce myself so you guys get to know me a little bit better before we dive right into the presentation. And so my name is Ines Nasri, and myself, I expanded my business to the US several years ago, and everything I'm about to share with you is not just coming from talking almost daily and helping and coaching founders, global founders expanding to the US, but it's also coming from my own experience going through the process myself several years ago. And so this is what I do right now. I'm a certified business mentor and workshop presenter with SCORE Los Angeles. For everybody who doesn't know SCORE, hopefully you get to know it when you expand to the US, because this is the largest organization. We're 10,000 mentors, volunteer mentors in the US. This is the largest organization in its category. We help businesses grow. My thing is online growth, but we help only American companies. Hopefully you get to come here and we get to help you expand and grow. I'm also vice chair of strategy with SCORE West Region Marketing Committee. We basically help the local chapters in 13 states in the Western region reach more small businesses and help as many American businesses as possible, grow and reach more customers. My specialty is marketing and online growth. I've been honored and really lucky to be selected among the top 5 mentors in the Los Angeles area in 2023. In SCORE, you can see me here with my mentee. We won this together, Kiera. And honestly, I think I learned from Kiera as much as she learned from me. I'm also a guest columnist with a few publications, including California Business Journal. I write about US expansion, but also online growth for businesses, personal branding as well. And now, with AI and how businesses can use AI to accelerate their growth. I'm also a business advisor with PCV, Pacific Community Ventures, which is a lender up north in San Francisco. I'm working with companies, American-based companies, helping them expand and grow online as well. I've been a mentor and speaker and moderator and official collateral event host with Select USA. For anybody who's in the audience today and doesn't know about Select USA, you have to. Absolutely. This is a program, and the summit are really something that is really, really close to my heart. And this is actually for people who don't know what about Select USA. This is the summit is the highest profile event in the US that facilitates and helps with what we call FDI, foreign direct investment, basically helping companies like yours expand and successfully grow and invest in the US. Select USA is a year-round program, but the summit is where we get to meet you know, very important actors in the expansion process. And I'll tell you more later about that. I actually have a full workshop about Select USA alone and work with different organizations to prepare their delegations to Select USA. This is how important it is. And hopefully we get to talk a little bit about this absolutely amazing event that has to be, honestly, this is what I think has to be part of your US expansion journey, right? I'm also on the board of a few organizations. One of them is the L'Oreal Foundation. This is really something that this is really a cause that I care about. This is a foundation where we help empower low income, diverse, and at risk youth, basically young people coming from challenged backgrounds. My thing, I'm part of the education committee. My thing is designing events and programs for them to get back, their life on track, basically making the most out of technology, STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and now amplified with AI. I'm also on the board of IREF, which is an Indian American think tank where I work with Indian companies, helping them expand to the US. I also help designing programs and events, and we'll be having one, I believe, next week, exactly in this exact topic. I've been in the mentoring, business education, online growth space for 18 plus years now. And I've been lucky enough to meet and work with founders in so many countries. Recently, I was also honored to be awarded the Top Inspiring Growth Leader of the Year in Dubai, representing the United States. That was in 2025. And I'm also a proud member of the Forbes Business Council. Like Yulia said, I really enjoy writing about the topics I mentioned earlier, US expansion. If you have some time, Google Ines Nasri and Forbes. You might find one or two articles that you might enjoy, hopefully. And yeah, I really enjoy educating and helping businesses grow. It's whether through expanding to the US for global founders, or American businesses really make the most out of those amazing technologies available. And so let's dive into the presentation and see really where are we at today with your US expansion. Please feel free to share in the chat. Where are you at with your expansion, right? And are you just starting? Are you in the process, or just thinking and exploring, which is absolutely fine. And this is why I chose to start by kind of thinking why invest in the US in the first place before even talking about customers or customer acquisition or anything like that, or marketing or go-to-market strategy. Why invest in the US? Why should you even consider that? There are so many options out there, right? And then why not expand to the country next door, where maybe culturally it's easier, geographically it's easier? Well, I'm about to tell you, the amazing combinations that I personally find, and a lot of the companies that I work with find really interesting. And the combination of the factors that I'm about to share with you is really what makes this market amazing and really unique. One of the things that I found my mentees really like and enjoy, and that I love myself, is the business friendliness of the environment. And this is an environment where you can really create a company in 24 hours. This is an environment where you have I'm not saying this is easy. I'm not saying this, there are no layers to the processes. I'm not saying that this is one step, this is one thing you could do, just like that. There are steps, there are processes, but this is really a business friendly environment where you can get things done. You can build your business, you can open accounts, you can get so much done fast, and processes are streamlined. This is also an environment where you have high quality living standards, and the high quality living standards matter not for you if you're coming to the US, or you're moving. This is not the point. Is your clients have to be able to afford whatever innovation you're bringing, whatever service you're bringing, especially if this is high value. You have to have clients that are able to afford, and the high quality living standards also comes with choices. You want to have an audience that can afford whatever it is that you are selling, and this is definitely the perfect environment for that. And again, I really want to insist on the ease of doing business. And there are other countries where it's also easy to do business, absolutely. But again, it's the combination of all those things together that makes it really an amazing market. The other thing also I do love about the market is, but this is just me, right? It could be somebody else could think otherwise. It's the digitalization. The degree of the digitalization of the processes is something that I do love. You could pretty much get everything done online, right? You don't have to go physically and get anything that has to do with building your company, the licenses, and so many things. You could do those online, and this is really important for me, and should be important for you actually as well, because it's not about you just being overseas and trying to get things done here. Even when you are in the US, actually your time is very important, your time is very valuable. And last thing you want to do is waste time that you should be spending on the business, working on the business, rather than working in the business and wasting time in getting things and going in person. And so this degree of digitalization is something that I really care about, and I do really enjoy. And I see also people I work with really enjoy that, and makes their life easy so they can focus on things that really matter, right? Also, if this is relevant to what you are doing, the well-established supply chains, if you're shipping a product, if you are selling online, if these are things that are relevant to your business and to your company, the robust infrastructure is really something that is extremely valuable to whatever it is that you're doing. Last thing you want is investing the time, the energy, and the money to expand to a country where the infrastructure might fail you. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So these are really important factors. The other thing that I really love about this market, and I see the value, actually I see the value with the founders that I'm working with, and people that I've mentored throughout the years, having access to a diverse workforce. And hear me out why this is important. So the way I see it, and really, this is hopefully a shift in perspective for some of you. Expanding to the US is not just expanding to a country. In my humble opinion, I think that you should look at that as the launch pad to your global expansion, right? It's easier, and that's not just me, to go and conquer the world when you already succeeded in the US from the US as an American company than using other paths that could be more or less challenging. And so when you're building something for the world, it's a software, it's a product, it's an app, it's an AI platform, whatever, it's a device, whatever it might be, it's in your best interest to have a diverse workforce working on this product so it's ready for the world. It's not built by a group of people with little representativeness, if that makes sense. We're not building for just a community, you're not building for a country, you're building for the world. And there's no better place than the US to have this kind of diversity in terms of workforce and access this kind of talent. Here in Los Angeles, for instance, the other day we were in LA EDC, Los Angeles Economic Development center, and we had a delegation. I think it was a Taiwanese delegation, and we were, you know, talking about the diversity. And someone from the LAEDC mentioned the number of more than 100 countries represented only in Los Angeles. You could be walking 3 blocks, 4 blocks here in downtown, for instance, Los Angeles, and you could hear 5, 6 different languages. This is just to tell you how diverse it is, and diversity comes with so many other positive things that we don't have the time to really talk about here. But I think you guys get the point. This is another really good thing about the market to definitely take into consideration. The other thing also, the opportunity to thrive in a market known as the world's largest. And here, I don't want to, throw big numbers at you guys, to just show you how big is the market. But this is why this is important. The fact that this is a large, very large market should matter to you for 2 reasons at least. The first reason is I work with a lot of founders that come from smaller countries, and they do a great job in those countries, but they outgrow the country, and they're like, okay, what do we do? How do we grow more? Like, we are known in this country, without citing specific countries, but then we outgrew the country. What do we do? You know what I mean? This is such a large market that this is the least of your problems, right? So that's one thing that you need to consider. The bigger you get, the more the market is going to support your growth. The other thing is, which is very important, whatever it is, the audience, that your target audience for your service, your product, chances are you're going to find a community, you're going to find this audience in the US. This is how large is the market to test your product, to test your MVP, to start growing from there. This is why it's not just about the numbers. You can find the numbers everywhere online, and you don't need me or anybody else to show you. The information is available, but this is more about the thinking and how these numbers work for you actually, and for your future success. And last but not least is the American brand. I've seen a lot of founders have, access to amazing resources they wouldn't have access to otherwise, because they are American brands. They have access to other markets, growing and expanding globally from the American market, thanks to the American brand. And I think this is something that is, sometimes overlooked and undervalued as an asset. And so, with that being said, you might be like, okay, Ines, okay, we get it. Thank you so much. We get it. But now, how do we get clients? Because this is, the question that I keep getting over and over again. Over the last 2 weeks, I at least met with, let's say, between 10 to 13 global founders, either with mentoring them or coaching them, and then this is one of the biggest questions that keeps coming back. And it makes sense, because if you don't have customers, you don't have a business. You could set up the entity, you could, create the bank account, do whatever it is that you have to do in terms, get the licenses, all of that. But for you to stay and grow in the market, you need to have those customers. And that's why with the team, with Julia and the team, when we were picking the topics, we kind of thought that this makes absolutely sense to help you understand, the American consumers. And don't get me wrong, we're not trying here to put close to 350 million consumers in one bucket. There's no way, with the diversity that we have, that we can put, in one single profile. What we're trying to do here is kind of paint a high level profile of the American consumer for you, more bring your attention to important things that you should consider when entering the market, when designing your marketing campaigns, when building your website, when choosing your messaging, when you're, preparing to enter the market. And I'll go even further, and this will make even more sense in a few minutes. I'll go even further, even in designing the product itself, or the service, the delivery, the customer service, and all of that. This is more like, how you need to look at the session, rather than just trying to put all the, American consumers in one bucket, because there's no way. There's more, work that needs to be done in depth in order to identify your niche and get to know this niche a little bit better. So this is how I need you, and I want you to approach this section of the presentation. And so we're talking about a consumer that is diverse, as I mentioned earlier. This is very, very important for you guys, and not from a workforce standpoint, as I mentioned earlier. It's from a consumer standpoint here. And a lot of from what I'm about to share with you applies for companies who are B2C, business to consumer, and B2B as well, right? And I'll go even further, B2G, B to government, business to government. And I'll give you an example in a minute how those things apply to all those, target audiences in slightly different ways. So this is also a discerning consumer, aware. They have a lot of options. This is a very competitive market, but I want you to look at the competitiveness from a positive point of view. This is a consumer that is exposed to a lot of competition, a lot of your competitors, right? And this is why educating yourself, doing your research, and everything we'll talk about in a minute is definitely key. And the decision, the buying decision is influenced by a variety of factors that I'm about to share with you in a second. I really want you to pay attention to the few things that we will share in the next slides, not just as information. It's really more of a mindset that you need to have when you are designing and building your roadmap, when you are building your go-to-market strategy, and so many other things that we'll talk about towards the end of the presentation. So this is really a diverse market in terms of cultures. This is a melting pot of cultures, ethnicities, and backgrounds. And you have that gives you access to an amazing, diverse consumer base. Even if you're planning to target a specific ethnicity, which is perfectly fine because your product is really designed for this, and chances are you're going to find it definitely in the US market, and we'll be able not only to test it but also expand, because remember, this is a big market. The numbers will make sense for you to expand and grow, right? And the diversity extends also to various ages groups, income levels, lifestyles, regional preferences as well. I know we tend to look at the American market as this big black box. It's more like a 50, and even more if we dive deeper, like 50 different regions, right? And not just this big black box, but you need to get, to start somewhere. And so this is an example. This is an ad by a retail store chain, and I wanted to show you how representativeness is important, depending on obviously on what you are targeting, what your service is. Notice, this is for the holiday season. Notice the difference of ethnicity in this ad. Notice the difference of skin colors. Notice the representativeness, right? This is something I've been working with a company that's targeting business to consumer. They're actually selling products for pet parents, and this is their clients are pretty much everyone. And what they try to do is just translate their local website and keep the visuals, or replace them by stock photos, or replace them by AI generated photos, which is not necessarily the best option. If we have a chance later today, we'll be happy to talk more about this. But the point is representativeness. And like I said, this is a mindset. The goal is not to copy, or absolutely not. The goal is to understand how this, how representativeness can translate in your marketing. Here you can see, women. This is for swimwear, but you can see different sizes, different skin colors, right? Different ages, right? And even you can see model to the far left with the skin condition. This is how far, empowering the consumer, which is another very important thing. And, representativeness can go pretty, I mean, if we had this presentation like probably 10 years ago or so, maybe this wouldn't have been the case, right? But now this is like more and more. We see this more and more in commercials. We see this pretty much everywhere, right? The mindset also is to empower your consumer.